Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. We've got schools joining us now. I can see it popping up. We're just waiting for everyone to join. Good afternoon. Fantastic. Brilliant. We've got lots and lots of schools joining. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. We'll just give it another few minutes for everyone to come along and make sure we've got us all ready to go. Schools, if you are logged on, we would love to hear who you are and where you're from. If you pop in the chat what school you're from and what area in the UK you guys are chiming in from, that would be great. It's just nice for us to see you all and say hello. I think there's still a few more people joining. Amazing. I'll give it one more minute just to make sure we're all in, and then we can get started. Fantastic. Hi, schools and students. If you want to pop in the chat what school you guys are joining us from and what area of the UK you're from, we just love to see who we're talking to today. Fabulous. Amazing. Right. I think that looks to me like we've got everyone joining. Fantastic. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to do this webinar all about STEAM careers, and we've got some amazing volunteers here that are going to give us some fantastic insight into working in their career, working for their amazing company, Electronic Arts, or EA, if we've all heard of EA. I always say it's EA Sports because it makes me think of the advert, which is very good marketing, which is very exciting. And oh, we've got some people already responding, saying that you guys are here, which is really fantastic. So, welcome, welcome. What we're going to do to start with is we're just going to introduce our panelists and everyone here talking. So, my name is Lenny, and I'm going to be kind of hosting today. I know I've met some of you before in schools doing these workshops, which is really exciting. So lovely to see you all again. And now I'm going to pass it over to our panelists who are going to introduce themselves and kind of what they do, ready for our Q&A. Now, at the start of the Q&A, I've got some fantastic questions that we have gathered from teachers and students and what they'd like to know about you guys. But then after, we have an opportunity for you to ask your questions as well. So if you think of questions throughout our Q&A, and you think, oh, actually, they answered that one, but I really would like them to go into detail a little bit more about what they did at university or what that job role entails, pop it on the chat because we will have 10 minutes at the end to answer your questions as well. So I'm going to now pass it over to Nick to introduce himself. And then we'll go over to Iz, and then we'll go to Gemma. Fantastic. Off you go, Nick.
Thank you, Eleni. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My name's Nick Madden. I'm a producer at Codemasters, and I work on the Formula One title. So we've just released the Formula 125 game. A producer, I manage a lot of people, a lot of engineers. I manage a lot of people smarter than I am. They're the people who sort of make the game and help design the game and hopefully try and make games fun. But yeah, in terms of production, I'm a senior producer. I've been in the games industry for 10 years now. And I started off as a QA tester, so a games tester, which is a really cool and fun job. And I've been at EA now for a year, and I've loved my time here so far. And I've got a great team behind me. I'll hand over to Iz.
Thanks so much. I'm Iz. I am an associate technical artist at EA Criterion. I started my career in games 3 years ago as part of the EA internship scheme. Yeah, I started as a technical art intern. Technical artists kind of are the bridge between the artists and the programmers. So we talk to people who work with rendering, and we talk with artists to try and make the game look as pretty as it can while also making sure it runs well. It's like it's an interesting role that involves looking at visuals, but also looking at how we can optimize the game.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Gemma. I'm the Senior Director of Integrated Communications for EA Sports FC, which is our football title. Previously it was FIFA, you may know it. So communications, we split that into PR, which is basically looking after the brand reputation and working with journalists and media outlets to place coverage, but also social media, which I'm sure you know more about than I do. Also influencers and talent, and just generally engaging with the community. I've been in the industry for 20 years officially, but also 5 years previous to that, because I used to demo games. Embarrassing, I used to demo dancing games when I was at school. So I worked for Konami as my part-time job before I started working officially.
Thank you so much, guys. Gemma, I can relate. I play games for dancing. I've worked in schools and apparently that's not cool, but you know, you learn something new every day. Thank you so much, guys. So later on when we do our Q&A, if you have a question that's specifically for one of our lovely 3 panelists, let us know. Otherwise, any general questions we'll ask to all 3. But I think we're going to get started with my questions, please. So we'll start with a nice, easy one. I would love to know what your favourite subject at school was and why. And this time, could we start with Iz?
Absolutely. So at GCSE, I chose computer science and graphics, art and design, and then Japanese was my language, and triple science. There you go. And I really enjoyed computer science, and I really enjoyed graphics and art, and that sort of led me down my pathway to doing a bit of both. And then I focused mostly on art subjects at A level, and had quite an art background going into it. But yeah, for sure.
So creativity is probably one of your strongest life skills.
For sure, yeah. I think especially how we can do creative things digitally was always something that I was super passionate about.
I love that. Thank you so much. Gemma, could you tell me about your favourite subject at school and why?
Sure, I'm not building on my cool credentials here, but my favourite subject at school was classical civilization, which I took through. I did that for my degree, so a little bit tangential from PR or from tech, but I just loved it because I thought it was a great way to be able to cover lots of different topics, because you have history, you have literature, you have language, you have philosophy, theology. And so I thought it was so interesting, so vast. And I just think it's fascinating to see how sophisticated civilizations were 2,500 years ago, and all the questions that they were posing, the same as we do today. And it really captured my imagination from quite a young age, I think. I think all kids love Greek myths, so.
Yeah, I think history is always fascinating. It feels like fiction in a way, but then when you realise it's non-fiction, it's like a bit of a moment, isn't it, for you? That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Gemma. Nick, can you tell us about your favourite subject at school and why?
Yeah, my favourite subject at school, it had to be maths. It was because I really enjoyed like solving problems. That was like the key bit for me is there was always a way that you could figure it out, and I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was at school, so I wasn't well versed with say writing, creative writing, but I loved having a problem to solve. So that, and the fact that you got like marks for showing you're working out and showing your intent, that always like was really, really helpful for my learning. I also loved like IT and PE, and I spent a lot of time in IT, actually trying to make a website about a football team that I was coaching at the weekends as well. So I'd spend a lot of time outside of school playing football and coaching football. And I'd use those skills that I've learned in maths and IT to sort of make up like the stats of all the players and put that all together. So trying to take what I was learning, but make it fun and make it something that I could relate to. So yeah, I spent a lot of time at school looking at football statistics, believe it or not.
Now, I don't know if I'm good to ask this. I don't know how the students will react, but do you have a team that you really support then, Nick, if you're a big footballer?
I do, yeah. I'm a Celtic fan, so we're the Scottish champions right now. And I also used to play Gemma's game religiously when I was a young boy, which is, yeah, the reason why EA Sports in the game was drilled into me, and why I really wanted to work at EA in the future. I used to work at a football game company before joining EA, so yeah, I love football. So yeah, hopefully there's some Celtic fans in the classrooms.
Pop it in the chat if you're a Celtic fan. Nick's going to want to know. Amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. Let's go on to our next question. So could you tell us about your daily responsibilities in your position? Just remind us of your position, your daily responsibilities, and how your job connects with STEAM careers. Gemma, would it be okay if we start with you this time?
Yes, absolutely. So I guess I touched already a bit on the different verticals. So I look after the sort of 3 directors who cover the PR piece, the social media piece, and then the community and influencer management piece. And so a lot of my day-to-day is just making sure everything's operating smoothly across all of those verticals. And I suppose communications maybe seems a little bit less obviously attached to STEAM. In some ways, you know, our role is really to tell the story of what the development teams are trying to make, what they're trying to deliver. But I think also having a STEAM background is also helpful within marketing and communications roles. So much of what we do requires us to use data, tracking performance, measuring engagement, or making all of our decisions effectively using data. And, you know, understanding the commercial picture is very important too. So in fact, my head of PR, she has an economics degree, and you know that's actually, she finds it very useful in her day-to-day. So I think you'd be quite surprised by how many people within the marketing organization also come from STEM backgrounds. And then, you know, creativity is obviously also key when it comes to the storytelling piece. And yeah, I think comms is a great place to sit between, I think, the arts and the sciences, in my opinion.
Yeah, amazing. So I suppose you're using life skills wise, you mentioned communication, obviously, it's definitely needed. And I suppose analytical skills as well. If you're working with a lot of data, I assume that's quite important.
Yeah, 100%. And I can't imagine many desk jobs actually in this era that don't require analysis and an understanding of data. So it's just so important.
Amazing. Thank you. Nick, could I pass over to you for me?
Yeah, sure. So as a producer, my day-to-day skills and sort of my tasks, they vary every day. No day is the same, which is always a good thing. As a producer, you need to plan a lot. You need to plan for when you're going to release a game, when you're going to update a game, what bugs you're going to fix with that game, and also what features you're going to build for it to be sold by Gemma's team, for example. So we look at a multitude of things, and my role is to make sure that everybody is communicating with each other. So I'm central to a lot of discussions, a lot of the data I will see and feed back to different members of the team. And it's really my job is to help other people do their work. I look at prioritizing people's work, for example. right now we've got a game out there with the public, so the public are really enjoying it, but there's some things that they've encountered that they think are bugs or they've had problems. So it's up to me to get all the information of how big is that problem, can I help my team members diagnose that, and give them a priority list of when they should do their work and why, and also give them deadlines to hit. But most importantly, listen to them, and is it a manageable deadline? So core skills for me, it is a lot of problem solving. It's not necessarily always me that solves the problems, but I need to lean on people who do solve the problems. So mine is a lot of teamwork, communication. I need to be central to a lot of information. And the one thing is I just need to assume that other people don't know what I'm talking about. So I need to get them up to speed really quickly on a problem so we can help solve it together. So that's sort of the key of working as a team, is making sure that you give someone enough information to process what they're working on. And then I manage designers. So I don't help with the designs itself. I have some great ideas, but I know my idea isn't the best one. So I need to leverage the people who have really good ideas and bring that out of them and help them almost bring it to a central design that we can make a really, really fun feature, an engaging feature for players of the game. So yeah, hopefully that wraps up my day today. It's never the same. That's the main thing I want to urge. You have a plan for the day, and very rarely that follows suit.
So your job is fantastic for someone who might get bored easily, because I can imagine you are never bored.
No, you're never bored. You never look at the clock. And if you do look at the clock, you think, how much time have I got left to do this? And you check the date, because obviously the deadlines are really, really important. But yeah, for me, it's really, really interesting. And you can plan a lot, but also it's really reactive. And when you put a game out there, you don't know how the fans are going to perceive it. You can have guesses, but you're never going to know until someone plays it how successful your game has been. And so you can plan to do this really, really cool feature, but if people don't enjoy it, then you need to find out why. You need to harness all the data that you're collecting to be like, and voices and opinions, and try and make sensible decisions based off that and what time you have to improve it.
Amazing. Lots of leadership skills, lots of teamwork. Sounds fantastic. Sounds very exciting. Can I pass over to you? Could you tell us a bit about your day-to-day work and how it's connected with Steam?
Sure, yeah. In my introduction, I probably should have mentioned Criterion is currently working on Battlefield. And prior to that, I worked on Need for Speed, the most recent Need for Speed game, Unbound. As a technical artist, a lot of what we do is talking to artists, negotiating with artists and rendering engineers, and working out how we can make performance saves so that the game will run smoothly while also maintaining high graphic fidelity, so making sure the game looks really pretty. Some of that is just understanding of what is expensive, so what parts of the game are expensive for the GPU and CPU. How can we make saves from those things? Like, how can we kind of cut some little corners and try and make it so that we're not losing any of the quality, but we're keeping the performance as good as we can. So lots of that is just having a good understanding of how our game engine works, so how we put games together, and just, what is expensive on modern computers, basically. So I sometimes do a little bit of script writing. I do a little bit of coding, and I do some work with procedural solutions. So looking at how we can make tools to make artists' lives easier. So when they're doing lots of repetitive actions, how can we smooth out their workflows and make it so that they have more time to focus on the important stuff. And stuff for like standardizing is one of the things that we do. So if you've got 50 cars in a game, and you want them to all have the same rough settings, but maybe when they were put into the game, that information wasn't super clear. You want to be able to go in retrospect and standardize all of those settings together. So sometimes that involves like writing little scripts so we can standardize all of those settings and make a performance save. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really interesting. I think that it involves having a good idea of what looks right. I think a lot of my art background comes in on that. Like, I always found it interesting to be able to identify why my art looked wrong. And that is a really useful tech art skill, is looking at the game and going, why does this thing look slightly off? How can we solve that problem? And having a really core, strong technical understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, which I think is something that I really learned over time, because I definitely had a more art background, but I really leaned into that. I found that I got more interested in that as time went on.
Amazing, so interesting, and all of your jobs are so different, and all your day-to-day things are so different, and it's really lovely. As someone who is probably not as knowledgeable in the gaming world as I would like to be, we all think of games and we think of the people that make the games, and then we forget about all this other stuff that's going on behind the scenes. So it's so interesting to hear from all of you your day-to-day jobs. My next question for you is kind of a mixture of mine, but also I'm going to add in Dixon's Brooklands Academy have also asked a question that's quite similar. So for anyone who's interested in careers like yours, what kind of things can the students do that's like extra curriculum, or where's a good place for work experience or something like that, just to support them outside their education into going into your careers? This time, can we start with Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Eleni. And yeah, in terms of the looking at to get into production, it's in terms of the role itself, it's very much like a project manager, but working within games. You have to wear a lot of hats. So having lots of like core soft skills is actually more important for a job like mine, not necessarily the technical understanding of how games are made, because I'm not making the game. I am helping facilitate people who are making the game. So in terms of sort of where to look or how to grow, like thinking about like how you communicate with people, developing listening skills is going to be vital for a role in production. And so if you're very well organized, that really helps. If you're able to pivot really quickly on something and multitask. So they're skills that can be developed in any role. So to give you an example, before I worked in games, I was actually working for the government, and I was managing people who worked on the census. So they had I was managing 15 people, and they were data entry people to fill in the census forms, which everybody does in the UK and other countries. So I'm managing that team, and that was something that was nothing to do with games, but that was valuable experience for me to manage a team of people. I volunteer a lot, and I coach football or soccer, however you want to call it. And to me, that's something that's really invaluable for me, and it helps me in the work environment. So, but in terms of like apprenticeships, etc., like obviously EA offer great apprenticeships, but usually when people are in university, and there are courses that are directed for sort of more game design and production. They tend to come together, but production isn't as a design and creative focused role, but it can be in different studios. All the studios work completely different. Just because you have one job title in one studio, you could do something completely different in another. My former role, I had to do a lot more line management, so I'd actually manage people's pay and their appraisals, something that I don't do here at EA. So every role is a lot different. But in terms of my way in, I started as a games tester. I was active on a community forum Now people are active on live streams and on YouTube and Twitch, whereas before I was on a forum asking questions, posting my notes, giving my feedback on a game, in the hope to get hired. But I would say my role is very, very transferable to any other industry, as long as you're good at communicating with people, managing deadlines. And that's the same for your teachers at your school. They do exactly the same thing as what I do, just in a different way.
I know some teachers are going to love that you've just said that. They're going to say, guys, look how cool I am. I'm the same as this EA producer. Show some respect. No, I really like what you said there, Nick, because I think it's something that's so important, that EA has mentioned previously to us when we've done our courses in careers, is that in every interview nowadays, someone's going to ask you, what do you do outside work? Or what do you do outside school? Because those times are so important, even when you're, supporting a football club, and things like that. Those are transferable skills that you're going to be developing that you will take into your working world. So I think it's really important that everyone has those extracurriculums and those hobbies and those interests. No one wants a robot to work with. We want people that have different interests and things. So it's really nice that you said that. Thank you so much for your answer. Can I pass it over to you?
Can you just remind me of the question? Sorry.
Yes, of course. So, what do you think people should do outside school, whether it's in their communities, hobbies, or work experience to help themselves get to your job role?
Work experience is really hard to get in games industry if you don't have any contacts with someone who already works in the games industry. I know because I tried. I emailed lots of games companies and they were like, we have really severe data protection and so we can't offer you any work experience. But if you are related to someone who works in games, ask them because they may be able to help you. But in terms of other stuff you can do, I did a lot of opportunities through school, so we had people come in and do talks. That was probably the main interaction that I had with game development when I was younger. I had the opportunity to go and do a game jam type thing with Creative Assembly, which was quite local to me. They're the game studio that work on Total War. And they got some students in from my secondary school to pitch game ideas, and then they went and made it in like 24 hours as part of a game jam. That was a really cool experience that I got to have. And I was probably about 15, 16 at the time. It was really seriously cool. I think it gave me a lot of inspiration as to why I wanted to go and work in games, especially just being in that environment, seeing lots of people who I felt like I had lots in common with. I was like, this is the type of environment that I feel like where I would be really like it would be like being around people like me. And then while I was in university, I did lots of personal projects. I entered game jams, I entered competitions. I think doing game jams is a really, really valuable thing to do, especially if you're interested in the development side. You usually do a small project in a short amount of time, even sometimes 48 hours, sometimes more like a week. And it gives you hands-on experience. Usually you work as part of a team with other people. It's something that you can talk about if you like get an interview somewhere. It's like super valuable experience, probably the closest you'll get to having experience in games. I went to university. I did a game art degree at De Montfort University, 3D modeling mostly to make assets for games. And the EA internship scheme is open for people who are currently in their second year at university. So when I was in my second year at uni, I applied to here, and amongst lots of other places, it's very competitive. And I was lucky enough to be interviewed for this role, and ultimately that's why I'm here.
Amazing luck, but also clearly hard work and effort and fantastic transferable skills. So you're right, there's an element of luck in it, but you will never be in those opportunities to to get the luck or to get the job if you don't do
Yeah.
all those additional things that you've mentioned and have those kind of work ethic and that mindset. So it's really impressive. Gemma, I'm going to pass over to you, and then just so we can get through, we've got lots of questions to answer. I'm going to kind of do a quick fire with one of you answer per question, if that's okay, because I'd love to get through as many as possible. But before we go on to that, Gemma, could you just let us know maybe what successful things and extracurriculum courses or work experience you'd recommend for your job role?
Yeah, certainly. So I won't. I think actually Nick's advice was really solid in terms of, you know, there are so many transferable skills. So just go and, I would say, follow your passions. I think it's really important that the young people don't feel like you have to do 50 different extracurricular things. I look at my kids already, and they have so many after-school activities and homework and tennis and ballet and all of this stuff. And I just think, when do you rest? You know, I think just really focus on the things that you're passionate about. I very similarly to Nick, I was also, my friends and I had the biggest forum for dancing games in the world when I was a teenager. And that's how I got my first placement with Konami, which I wasn't trying to get, but they needed people who played the game to demonstrate for them. And that's how I got my first job at Xbox, because they were a PR team where nobody played games and they wanted someone who actually was a gamer. And so that's how I got that job. Then I went to Sega, then I went to PlayStation, and now I'm at EA. So I didn't have a plan, and that's clear from my classics degree. And I think actually I think that shows though, and I want to be very conscious of that generational gulf, because I think it's changed a lot between my day and Iz's day, where now it is a lot more competitive and you do have to think about paths it through. And I think the EA internship scheme is brilliant. We have so many former interns in my team now, some of them in really senior positions now, because EA is actually brilliant at keeping extending those contracts once the interns have completed their degree. So definitely look out for it. I know loads of other places, Warner Brothers do an internship scheme, Spotify do one, loads of brands do internships. So definitely when you're in your first year of uni, start thinking about that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Some fantastic advice there. That's brilliant. Right, we're going to start our quick fire questions now. We're going to whiz through these. The first one I am going to get you all to answer, because this seems to be quite a regular question that we've got coming up with a few different schools and a few different students. We'd love to know your favourite game to play, but also your favourite game that you've worked on, whether it's been creating it or testing it or marketing it, anything like that. So your favorite game to play and your favorite game that you've worked on. I can say that my favorite game to play is Sims 4. Is it Sims 4 or Sims 3? Sims 4, isn't it now? You can tell I play it all the time. I love it, and I make all my Sims have a fantastic career, and I think if they can do it, I can too. It's very inspirational. And I love it. So let's start with Nick. Could you tell me your favorite game to play and your favorite game that you've worked on?
Yeah, my favorite game to play is WWE No Mercy, or WWF No Mercy. It's from the N64 era, because I love retro games, just because I'm old. And then my favorite game that I've worked on is Football Manager 2024. It's the most played game I've ever made, and something that I was really proud of before I left to join EA.
Amazing, thank you. Could you answer that question for me, please?
For sure. I really love all the Pokemon games. Right now I'm playing a lot of Slay the Spire. And I've only worked on 2 games and only one of them's out. So I'm gonna say Need for Speed Unbound.
Amazing. And Gemma, are we gonna have another dancing game for this one, or?
I mean, my favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy VII, and I just can never get over it, and it will stay with me forever. And my favorite game I worked on, although it was really hard, but The Last of Us has to be, working with Neil Druckmann and that creative team on something that now has completely penetrated mainstream culture. It's incredible, and gaming has just moved on so far from when I was a kid. I just couldn't have imagined working on something like that. So yeah, it has to be that.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so my next question is, a lot of students were thinking, obviously STEM careers STEAM careers are so vital when it comes into your kind of job roles, but are there actually other kind of ways of getting there? Other degrees that aren't specifically science, technology, engineering or maths that you might recommend that they would enjoy more at uni, but then it can still help them get into those job roles. Out of the three of you, is anyone that's like, oh, I'd love to answer that question, because I'll pass it over to you. And I see Gemma nodding, which means I'm going to pass it straight over to Gemma.
It's going to pass it to Nick, but I would say, because I'm actually someone who doesn't, I work less, I'm not in development. So, and as I said, I've got a classics degree. So I would say if you want to go into something more adjacent, you could do a marketing degree, or even any kind of business degree that could get you into the publishing side of video games, which is enormous and so honestly so brilliant, and in my opinion so much more interesting than other entertainment publishing models. And then in addition to the marketing degrees, we obviously have finance teams, we have legal teams, we have HR teams. To get a game to market, it takes an absolute enormous community of people. So you can really have any background and still work for a gaming company.
That's brilliant. Yeah, we've mentioned it a few times. These transferable skills are so vital coming into a company like EA. So it's really nice to kind of home on that. My next question is for you. What's the best way to start practicing making games on your PC? Now, I know you mentioned earlier that you'd kind of done your own stuff, you've got into competitions. Could you recommend maybe some good ways of creating your first ever games on your PC for some of the students?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a really big fan of Scratch when I was in school. I did a lot of Scratch. It's basically, the principle is you use little blocks to represent different movements in the game. So you might have want to move a character, and you might have want to change the background, and you connect them all up, sort of flowchart style. And you can use that to create some really great stuff. There's some really cool stuff out there on Scratch, and you can play other people's games and remix them and look at how they've made it and then make your own stuff out of it. Really great tool, and I think especially super valuable if you're just trying to get started and you don't know where to start, because they've got lots of great tutorials and stuff on how to get you started as well. And if you're more interested in just getting to grips with like making, like if you want to try and make something a little bit more, you can try looking at Game Maker. Twine is quite easy to get to grips with, and that's for making like little story games. So if you're quite interested in writing, Twine might be a good one for you. But yeah, I think if you're making stuff, you're already really well on your way. I was just doing quite a lot of like drawing and posting it on forums at the time. And I think that's still totally useful. I think it's really been totally useful for me.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sis. There's loads of stuff there. That's great. Nick, we're going to pass over to you for our final question. Now, I'm going to ask the question, but I'm not going to understand what I'm asking. So please recorrect my terminology if I'm saying it wrong. Are the games all scripted, or are they paid to win? Now, we've had a few questions about scripted games here, so I was wondering if you could kind of understand what I'm asking and then answer it. There's your challenge.
I don't know if I
Thank
should
you.
answer that because I'm in PR. Are you okay with it, Nick?
Well, how about you go first and then I'll pick up afterwards.
Yeah, the key point to make is none of our games are pay to win, and in fact, a vast majority of our hundreds of millions of players never spend a penny. So, I just want to make that really clear up front. But Nick.
Yeah, in terms of games, obviously, we try and design a game to be a collaborative experience. We try and design a game to be fun, engaging. And obviously, there are like models out there where you will play a mobile phone game that is completely free, and then people will ask you to play and maybe add additional content, but you can still play the game. So in terms of that sort of idea in game philosophy, that's changed a lot in the industry. When I first started playing games, you got the disc And that was all you got. You got the cartridge. You couldn't even get a patch because the internet wasn't good enough, because someone else was on the phone, so you could not use the internet. So that shows how old I am, for all of you to laugh at. But in terms of gaming and how some modes that we do make in a game are scripted. Now, I'll give you an example of that. At the moment, we've got a story mode in our game. So we have to write a script. We've had people that have had audio design. We've generated all these cutscenes and authored all these cutscenes to make it a story. But then when you choose and you select it, you go down a different path because it is a story. It's your story. So it's scripted up to a point. But then it's up to you to then play the game and play it and enjoy it. And then you will go on to the next chapter. And then that's sort of the secondary narrative again, and that storytelling kicks in. So you are the player in the game and you're trying to create your story, but there is sort of a script that you need to follow. That's not necessary to say all the gameplay scripted, of course, but it's more, we give you an event that you may need to try and beat, and you may need to complete the objectives. And if you don't, we're going to ask you to try and play it again. But in a former game that I worked on, it was the most unique game because you could play it forever. We've had people in the Guinness Book of World Records playing the game for years upon years upon years, and you can play it forever. And you can make your own story, and then you can start again if you really want to, or you can sim the game for as long as possible, and the game will play out completely different every time. And I think that just shows you that a lot of games, they do play out differently to everybody, and that's the reason why a lot of the gameplay, really, you can tell it isn't scripted because everybody enjoys it and consumes it in a different way. And that's what we try and do. We try and make gameplay mechanics, what we call them, and systems where we can get you to enjoy it and get you to enjoy it differently than someone else. But yeah, just to add a bit of flavor there.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, like you said, there's so many different things. And I would say actually one of the life skills we haven't brought up today that's so important with anyone who games is resilience. Like you said, if you don't pass something, you have to do it again. You have to try it again. You don't give up and not finish the game. So probably everyone on this call, that's a life skill that you've already started to develop at school. Right, we have 2 minutes left and we're going to do a quick fire trivia. Every school will only have 10 seconds to answer the questions, and we will be letting you know who has won. We do not have prizes, but your prize will be the feeling that you are successful. So, I mean, what more could anyone want? So your question 1 is on your screen now. What does STEAM stand for? So if everyone could vote for me, A, B, or C. And okay, we've got our answers here. So 80% of the people have done C. The answer is C, science, technology, arts, engineering, and maths. So well done to all of you. Let's go over to question 2. So true or false, a design process is a process in which a new product is created, from new apps to cool headphones. Designers, developers, and engineers follow a process to build the best product possible. Do we think it's true or false? You have 10 seconds to answer. We have got majority of the people have said true. The answer is true. Congratulations. That's everyone that's got that right. That's fun. I love when everyone's successful. What a great day. Question 3. Which career makes sure a video game player can move through the game by writing the program or code? Is it a sound engineer, a software engineer, or a game designer? We should know this one. But also we might not, and that's it. Oh, smashed it. We got 80% correct. It is a software engineer. Well done. I know this is super fast, guys. It's because it's 3 o'clock. So if you haven't had a chance to click yet, don't stress. You're probably right. True or false? Making a game is all about teamwork. Game producers are responsible to helping the team collaborate. We definitely know the answer to this one because Nick pretty much told us this earlier. Let's see what we got. 7 out of 7 true. Absolutely correct. There we go. We've all learned something. Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for coming along. Thank you so much to all our teachers that got everyone on board. Thank you to all our students that had questions. Sorry if we didn't have time to answer all your questions, but hopefully you'll be able to get them answered in the future. A huge thank you to Nick, Iz, and Gemma. You have been amazing. You've given some fantastic advice today for me as well to take home, never mind the students. So thank you so much. We've got some lovely thank yous as well in the chat from all the schools. We've absolutely smashed it. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your afternoon.
Thanks
Thank you so
much.
much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.